Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the History Cloak channel. This is Mr. McGee with a kind of scraggly voice since I'm fighting off a cold, but luckily this is the intro into a pre-recorded episode. If you remember from last episode, I said that it was too long and so I was going to break it into 3 parts. Well, this is part 2, focused on the 6-Day War. So, without further ado, we're going to start that portion of the episode. I hope you enjoy. Let's begin. War number 2, the 6-Day War. Now, out of all the wars that we'll talk about and all the conflicts that involve Israel and Palestinian Arabs, or Israel and terrorist groups, the 6-Day War is key. If you remember nothing else, you've got to know about the 6-Day War. Now, we are going to jump into the 1960s because the 6-Day War takes place June 5th through the 10th, 1967. Gamal Nasser is still president of Egypt, and he's still looking for a way to take out Israel. Now, the Fedayeen didn't work, but he is going to try a different path this time. He's still making a lot of comments about Israel. I think this would probably be one of the best ones to read. Israel and the imperialism around us, which confronts us, are two separate things. There have been attempts to separate them in order to break up the problems and present them in an imaginary light, as if the problem of Israel is the problem of the refugees, by the solution of which the problem of Palestine will also be solved and no residue of the problem will remain. The danger of Israel lies in the very existence of Israel, as it is in the present and in what she represents. This was a speech given by Nasser to the United Arab Republic National Assembly on March 26, 1964. This kind of spells out Nasser and the other Arab countries' beliefs about Israel. Basically, no matter what debates may revolve around Israel, the key is Israel and its existence. As long as it is there, they have a problem. In September of 1965, Arab leaders and Arab military leaders and the intelligence chiefs from the Arab countries, they met in a hotel in Casablanca to discuss invading Israel. King Hassan II, King of Morocco, secretly recorded the meeting and gave the tapes to Israel. This gave Israel much needed intelligence, understanding that they are going to invade us. All right, that's kind of important. Also, it helped Israel to realize that these guys really aren't united. They don't really get along with each other, but they're trying to figure out how to put on a united front so that it will be easier to work together in invading Israel. Now, by the way, little side note, if you want to hold a secret meeting, probably the best way to do it is not to meet at a resort hotel in the most popular city in a country like Morocco. All right, Casablanca, well known. Israel already knew the meeting was happening. King Hassan was just willing to provide the evidence for them. Fast forward to May 18th, 1967. The Syrians are amassing troops on the Golan Heights. The Golan Heights overlook the Sea of Galilee. Nasser has asked the UN to remove their troops from the Sinai Peninsula. Ever since that Sinai Peninsula crisis, the UN had a peacekeeping force in the Sinai Peninsula. Nasser told them to go, and surprisingly, the United Nations said yes and left, leaving a path clear for the Egyptians to be able to cross into the Sinai and be on the border of Israel. On May 20th, 1967, Syrian Defense Minister Hafez Assad said the following: "Our forces are now entirely ready not only to repulse the aggression, but to initiate the act of liberation itself and to explode the Zionist presence in the Arab homeland. The Syrian army, with its finger on the trigger, is united. I, as a military man, believe that the time has come to enter into a battle of annihilation." On May 23rd, Egypt closed the Straits of Tiran to all Israeli ships trying to get to Israel. In other words, battle is getting closer and closer. We know from the Hassan tapes in Morocco that the Arabs were planning to invade, and now the invasion is getting close at hand. On May 30th, King Hussein of Jordan signed a defense pact with Egypt, basically saying, hey, we are going to be working with you and Syria in invading Israel. With the defense pact signed, Nasser said the following: "The armies of Egypt, Jordan, and Syria and Lebanon are poised on the borders of Israel to face the challenge, while standing behind us are the armies of Iraq, Algeria, Kuwait, Sudan, and the whole Arab nation. This act will astound the world. Today they will know that the Arabs are arranged for battle. The critical hour has arrived. We have reached the stage of serious action and not declarations." With an all-out Arab invasion imminent, on June 5th, 1967, Israel did the one thing that absolutely nobody expected. They launched a surprise attack. Israel's surprise attack completely took Egypt and their allies by surprise. On June 5th, Israel took most of their jets. They left about 12 to defend Israeli airspace. Knowing that the Egyptian pilots were still at breakfast, they basically carpet bombed all the Egyptian airfields, destroying most of their planes before they'd ever launched off the ground, not to mention killing a whole lot of Egyptian pilots. They also took out about half of Syria's air force. Basically, by the end of the first day, Israel had established complete air superiority over its enemies. Basically, to make a long story short, Israel is going to capture the entire Sinai Peninsula. They are then going to climb the Golan Heights and kick out the Syrians, who had for a couple years been using those heights to shell Israeli towns. When Jordan starts shelling Jerusalem, Israel is going to counterattack. They're going to take the entire West Bank, including all of Jerusalem, and they're going to tear down the wall that had been built to split Jews from Arabs and basically unite Jerusalem again as one whole city. The Jordanians are kicked out of the West Bank back across the Jordan River. This is complete and total victory. If you're playing a video game, this would be the part where the narrator says, "Finish him." This is complete and total victory for Israel. In fact, this was such a huge victory. The Egyptian president, Nasser, and King Hussein, not King Hassan of Morocco, but King Hussein of Jordan, were on a phone call talking about, how are we going to spin this? I know what we'll do. We'll admit that we've lost the war, but what we'll tell everybody is that the Americans and the British sent troops and defeated us. That way, we don't admit that it's Israel that defeated us. There's only one problem. Israel was recording that phone call. They then took the recording and released it to the rest of the world, humiliating Egypt and Jordan further. This victory will result in Israel doubling its size and basically removing Egypt, Jordan, and Syria from its pre-1967 borders. Hopefully some of you caught that name, the West Bank. The West Bank meaning the West Bank of the Jordan River. Israel is going to capture all the West Bank from Jordan during the 67 war. This will be disputed territory that we'll talk about later on, but this is how Israel got the West Bank. Now at this point you're probably thinking, hey, wait a second. If Israel just completely wipes out its enemies in the 6-Day War, surely this should lead to some sort of peace. In other words, the Arab countries have probably realized, I don't think we can defeat Israel. Well, the leaders of 8 Arab countries met in Khartoum, Sudan, from August 29th to September 1st, 1967. At this meeting, they basically formulated a plan that most other Arab countries that weren't at that meeting agreed to. And it became known as the 3 no's. No peace with Israel, no recognition of Israel, and no negotiations with Israel. So those 3 no's pretty much encapsulated the attitude of the Arab world. They were not going to give in to Israel. They were going to dig in their heels and basically continue with the idea that eventually Israel should be annihilated. I hope you enjoyed that episode. There will be a 3rd episode upcoming on the Yom Kippur War, and that will finish off that whole breakup of a very long episode. So, as per the usual, if you have any questions or comments, please leave them politely and respectfully in the description box below. I'm Mr. McGee. Take care.